This podcast is brought to you by Andersen Windows. Embrace the outdoors with one of Andersen's 5 different moving glass wall systems and take a different approach to removing the lines between the indoors and out.
Whether your project calls for a 50-foot wide multi-glide door available with automation and pocketing options, a sleek and modern 16-foot tall pivot door, or maybe even a curved or corner lift slide door, Andersen has you covered. First off, before we go any further, 50-foot wide door or 16-foot tall door is absolutely insane.
Tyler, I was thinking about the curved lift and slide door.
Also insane.
Yeah, that's I've seen the curved lift and slide. It is epic, and I mean, in so many ways. If you haven't seen it at the Builder Show, then I would recommend making sure you do check it out in a future Builder Show. But new construction, home renovation, or a house that's on the coast, explore the endless possibilities and add even more living space to your next project. See the difference for yourself by visiting AndersenWindows.com. That's AndersenWindows.com. This podcast is brought to you by Buildertrend. Project schedules scribbled on whiteboards, documents lost in mountains of paperwork, hours of time wasted driving between the job site and office.
Does any of this sound familiar? It's time to put these problems in the past.
Buildertrend can streamline your jobs from day one to deadline with the leading construction management platform. You can
kick off projects faster with templates, stay on track with scheduling that updates everyone as changes are made, reduce risks with detailed notes and daily logs, and manage and track selections in one place.
This is the tool that every builder needs to get their project in order from start to finish and keep them that way. To learn more about Buildertrend's project management tools, check out buildertrend.com/MC project. We're live on YouTube. Dude, I feel like we are ships passing in the night.
You look like night. You're all blacked out. You're like Johnny Cash.
It's my new look, man. It's my new look. Yeah, I think so.
What's the hat say? Is it NS Builder's hat?
Yeah. Which is funny.
You're like a police officer.
Unmarked car. Yeah.
Yeah.
I walked into the gym the other day, and so I saw one company like 6 months ago with a black on black hat. I'm like, oh, dude, dope. I'm getting that. I ordered all my hats. All my guys have white on black. I wanted like something a little more stealth. Same my sweatshirt. Yeah. And I walked into the gym, and I have one hat I wear in the gym. So when you sweat, it like has like salt lines on it. And I walked in, and the guy behind the desk was like, "Yo, nice hat." And I'm like, "Thanks, man." And I walk upstairs, and I realize that gym has black on black, but it's black camo, and it says Equinox across the front of it.
Yeah.
So when I pulled mine off and I looked at it from afar, he thought I was wearing the exact same hat he had, like a black camo hat that said Equinox.
Have you always gone to an Equinox gym?
No, I've recently joined.
I think that there's Equinox in Philly. It's a small gym, right? Are they?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying this. It's like a bougie gym.
Yeah, I think that either Rachel went there or her boss went there years ago, like 10, 12 years ago, but they weren't very prominent at that point.
So actually, I think this is a great topic. I think health is an interesting topic that we can dig into. But so I was going to an LA Fitness forever, and the LA Fitness is near my office. And that it's like, I want to say I was paying like $30 a year for it. I probably still am. I actually think I need to cancel. And I remember reading the cancellation thing, and you have to go in, get a form, and then mail it. It's like this like ridiculous like cancellation thing. But I was going there forever, and it's just a gym. It's like a totally average, normal ass gym. But it's near my office, and I haven't been coming to my office every single day. So I would be going in different directions, and there happens to be one north of the city, west of the city, and south of the city, but nothing in the city. So depending on where I was going that day, I would hit one of those locations. But dude, it was just like I was wasting so much time in the morning just driving to those locations. So I looked at the stuff in the city, and I came across Equinox, and everyone's like, dude, it's super, it's super bougie, it's super nice. It's like there's like it's really clean, all of these things. And it's substantially more per month. And I'm like, dude, like
per year.
It's like per year. But I'm like, I was like, I have to go to this every single day for this to even like actually make sense. Which I do, but I um I end up going for it because number one, it's right near my house. It is super nice. Like I can go there. It opens early. I shower, get changed there. It's not like this kind of like it's not just a regular. It's not a regular gym in the sense of it. I don't want to say LA Fitness isn't super clean, but it wasn't the cleanest.
Yeah.
Just for what it is.
It's like a commodity gym.
But it's also I also feel like this is where we've talked about this before, but I feel like when you're around, like when you're around people that are how do I say this? When you're in I guess when you're in a more expensive place, you want to be more active in it and you want to put more effort into it because you don't want to be the guy that doesn't, that isn't working out as hard or
Yeah.
going there as much. And it's like
There's a certain level of accountability there when you're also paying a ton of money.
totally the money, but you put the money aside, then it's like if you go at the same day and you see everyone there every day at 5:30 a.m., it's like, and you don't show up at 5:30 a.m., I mean, maybe it's just me, but like if I don't see someone, I'm like, oh, where's that dude?
Definitely.
What
There's
is he taking the
I
day off?
I run there's a high school right down the street from my house that I could pretty much stand on my front porch and pee on, but our kids won't go there because we're on the border of a town, so
Mm,
that's actually for the other town,
mm,
but I go and run on their track at night, 1 or 2 days a week, and there's this older guy there who fucking power walks. Like, I'll send you a video message I have of him like, power walker, legit,
yeah.
and, every time I, like, see him there, he gives me the head nod, and I was on vacation, and
Mm,
then last week, I didn't run for a week because my knees were bothering me, and I saw him last week, and I was like, "Don't worry, I didn't leave you, buddy."
mm.
Like, gave him the head nod while he was just power walking away.
Yeah, and it's you get these like I don't even talk to anyone.
I don't
Like
wanna let him down.
right, but you also like if he's not there, it's like, what's going on?
Yeah.
Why isn't he there? But either way, like I I decided, hey, this makes more sense for my schedule. I can get there early. Um, you know, y- as many of you guys heard last week, we just had our fourth child. Um, and with my schedule, like I do now, I'm helping out in the morning more like with drop off. So I can go there, do my whole routine, get showered, get changed, get a little work done, and then drop the kids off at school and then get right back to work. Where it's like it's nice. I'm not, driving 20 minutes to my office and stopping at the gym beforehand.
I mean, any excuse that you have to not work out is generally taken. It's like not the most desirable thing to do, so you have to set up everything in your life that makes it as easy as possible. If you find an excuse
Yeah.
to not go work out, you have to have somebody who holds you accountable, and then you have to integrate it into your lifestyle that doesn't make it a nuisance,
Mhm.
which is why like I feel the Peloton took off because it allows people to work out, still feel like they have that
Yeah.
community there, but they don't have to leave their house. If my wife had to he'd leave the house and go to a gym every day, it just wouldn't be convenient for her. I don't know
Yeah.
if she would do it.
I the thing that will make me not go to the gym the most is if I don't pack my clothes in the morning the night
Yeah.
before. If I wake up and have to pack my clothes, there's a high probability that I'll decide not to go. And it's just
You
like,
don't mind working out, like, just sweating it out in front of other people?
me?
Yeah.
No, not at
I
all.
don't I don't mind, like, wrestling growing up. I wouldn't mind working out with, like, everyone you wrestle with, but I'm not a huge fan of being at the gym just, like, sweating it out while people are watching you, like, "What the hell's going on right now?" He's grunting and, like, crying and sweating.
Well, the best part is I don't know if I'm grunting because I have the headphones on,
Same.
but everyone has headphones. I I think that so, uh the other day, like I follow a routine on my phone, and um, which is great. Like I can't recommend that enough. Like having a routine, like someone else telling me what to do is amazing. But I'm clicking on it, and then it's like jump rope. I'm like, whoa, I haven't jump roped in a really long time. and I don't even own one, so I got to go find one. And I find one at the gym, and this gym is this thing gets there's at least 100 people in there. It's pretty crazy how busy this place gets, and everything else I'm fine. Like everything I know how to do. Like there's a video on how to do it. If I'm confused and I watch the video, I'm like I'm good. So I'm never worried about my form. And I grab the jump rope, and it felt a little long to me. So I start going, and then like I trip. And I'm
Yeah.
like, all right, I'll choke up on the jump rope a little. I do it again. I trip again. And I'm like, yep, that's my whole set. And putting that back because I'm like, there's 100 people
Maybe
watching
you
me.
were
Like,
holding it backwards.
I don't know. But I felt like everyone was like, hey, did anyone else see that guy over there that doesn't know how to jump rope?
Yeah. That's the problem. I was running last night and that like these I don't know, 16, 17-year-old kids who you could tell were on the track team came out and they did this really long, elaborate warm up and then stretching and then quick speed sprints. And I was like, I just hope that they don't start running longer distances right now with me and just start either smoking me
Yeah,
or
lapping you.
making me look foolish, which they didn't. And I was out of there by then. But I'm like, listen, I'm not claiming to know what I'm doing. I'm just out here trying to blow off some steam.
Yeah.
Um, but I realized the Equinox that I'd gone to, again, probably 10 years ago, we did a Soul Cycle
Mm,
event for somebody who had cancer, and we
mm.
did it up in New York. So that's when I'd been to an Equinox.
I just, I mean, I think that like relating this to our industry, and we've been chatting about this offline. I think that health gets put in the secondary, maybe even lower than that slot. And I look at like, my wife and I were talking about, I'm on this like huge nutrition kick with like what I eat.
Hmm.
And I'm just becoming really aware of what food I eat and, what's bad for me and what's good for me. And because I'm constantly,
Liver
uh,
King? You on the Liver King
I'm
diet?
not on the Liver King diet. I have been thinking about trying liver. I would, but I think, I mean, that's a whole nother story. But I'm becoming more and more aware of it, and it's becoming more and more of a conversation, and to the point where, like Tyler, I know you don't drink, and we talked about that, but and you and I've chatted about like how I've said, hey, I kind of feel like just giving up alcohol,
Yeah.
and and I finally got to a point where it's like I don't need to like make this cold turkey decision to give it up, but I just haven't drank. And I haven't drank because every time I wake up the next day. I'm like, I got to be up at 4:30 in the morning, and when I wake up at 4:30 or 5 o'clock, it's like, and I feel kind of like crap. I'm immediately attributing that to the fact that I drank 2 glasses of wine.
I
And
I think the less you drink, also the more it affects you. It
oh,
If you're
totally,
casually drinking once every few weeks, I think that it affects you more than if you're
yeah.
tuned in like season to be drinking.
And so we started talking about Meg and I were talking about like the industry, and and when you think of, if I were to say, hey, I want you to close your eyes and picture a construction worker, and like what does that person look like? Is it this like really fit, individual that, looks like he eats really healthy and can clean up well? Or do you picture someone that probably has a bad diet and is lazy and
I picture a roofer, just like skinny, beat by the sun, smoking cigs.
true, the
Like,
roofers are pretty skinny. But my point is like I think that there's just the health is just not something that I think is super prominent in our industry, and diet especially. And oftentimes it comes down to, what is available. Like me personally, forever growing up, like I never brought lunch to work. I still barely pack a lunch. But if I do order out, I'm typically ordering something that's as healthy as I possibly can. But the reality is, like, most of the options out there aren't healthy.
no, not at all.
And you're getting these calorie dense meals you know, that are from a fast food restaurant down the street, or you're ordering a pizza, or you're getting like it's and we're in this like physically, laboring environment of construction. I'm not really sure where I'm going with this conversation, but I think that health itself needs to take more of a role in all of our lives. And one thing that I've realized is, people ask me or we talk about, oh yeah, I go to the gym in the morning and then I go to work. It's like, well, you have the luxury of doing that because you own the business. But if one of my guys said, "Hey, I would love to go to the gym in the morning." It's like, dude, go. Like, I would want you. Like, I want to encourage that. I'm not waking up at 7 and going to the gym and then getting to work by 9. I'm waking up at 4:30 and going to the gym, and on. I'm working by 7. Like, you gotta be disciplined enough to do that. Um, I don't know.
So I don't mean to not contribute to this conversation. I was trying to pull up an email that somebody sent me last week when you had started speaking to the drinking, not drinking.
Mm,
I can't find it right now. I was trying to look on my phone. I'm gonna pull up on my computer. Um, I'll have to pull up the exact email so I can credit the guy who sent this, but essentially he had listened to the podcast where we discussed not drinking,
mhm.
and he said he's never had any sort of drinking problem or addiction issues in his life, but he heard me talk about how I'm never going to have to explain to my kids why I didn't get in a car
Yeah.
and or drink and drive. Essentially, if you had one beer, two beer, I'll never have to have that conversation where like, hey, it's okay, daddy only had two beers and he drove, and have to explain to them or delineate the difference between. Never have that conversation. So he said that he's never had an issue with alcohol, but he decided, I'll have to find this later. He decided to cut out just drinking and driving.
Yeah.
Like, not that he ever got drunk and drove.
Yep.
He's like, but I would have a drink at dinner if we went out to dinner and then drove home.
Yeah.
And he's like, as soon as I stopped doing that, I felt so much better about myself. I had less anxiety
Mhm.
driving late at night. I felt better the next day. And he's like, and I don't have a drinking issue. I don't have addiction issues. I just had not realized how like shitty and anxious it made me feel doing that. And I was like, I'm actually super pumped that you reached out to me and told me. And it was his second email through. Like, his
Yeah.
first email, he didn't even mention that. um but I do completely agree with you. I think that in our society in general, there's very little emphasis put on physical health,
Mhm.
which I also believe is a huge contributor to mental health as well.
100%.
There's
I wanna give you credit on that because I think, you've said a lot of powerful things on this podcast and off this podcast, but you saying what you just said about you'll never have to explain to your kids why having 1 or 2 beers is okay to drive. When you said that, there's nothing that you've ever said that has impacted me more.
That's
And I
awesome.
and the fact that, like, someone else said that, I'm sure there's 100 other people that listened to that and was like, "Holy shit, he's right." And I remember you saying that. I remember we went to, the little beach that we belonged to, and I remember Meg being like, "Hey, do you want a beer?" I'm like, "I'm good." She's like,
Yeah.
"Why?" I'm like, I'm driving. Like, I just don't feel like having a beer. Like, there's no reason for me to have a beer. Like, why do I need to have a beer?" And she was like, "Okay." She's like, "But we're
Isn't it
here."
weird that, like, that's weird?
And she's like, "But we're not leaving for, like, we're here for 8 hours." And I'm like, "No, I know, like, but what do I need a beer for?" She was like, "I mean, you don't." And I don't know. It's, and obviously being like top of mind, I see all these, um, Brooklyn, New York, right? Now you're seeing all these mocktail bars pop up, which I think is
Yeah.
super interesting. All these non-alcoholic liquors, becoming really popular, which I think there's issues with that too, where, now they're just making these like quote unquote chemical potions to taste like tequila. But the reality is I think that, and I think there's a lot of support for this is that alcohol I think is going to be less and less popular over the next decade.
I hope so. I mean, not even just from my point of view. I think as society we have condoned the drinking to excess and
Hmm.
partying and made it normalized that that social aspect of
Hmm.
drinking. And I, from an outside point of view, it should not be normal at all. It's not safe. You make dumb decisions. It's
Yeah.
extremely unhealthy during and after. I did find this. The guy's name is Lindsay Falls, and he was speaking to me about stoicism, which is somewhat similar to the Serenity Prayer, where you control what you can control and give up what you can't. But he said, your comments at some point recently about never having a conversation with your children about what convoluted factors contribute to when, where, how much, etc., makes it okay to drink and drive. Recently led me to implement a no drink policy whenever I'm driving with any of my kids. From a moral point of view, it's easy to justify, but I was additionally surprised by how much better I feel driving, particularly during these dark winter evening nights after skipping a single drink, which is really cool and really crazy. I'm like a huge advocate for not drinking and driving.
Hmm.
Even if you drink, when I was 19, my best friend died drinking and driving. And it's just I mean, it shouldn't take something like that,
Right.
but that makes a massive impact on your life. And I did a lot of really dumb shit when I was drinking that, had I not been drinking, 100% wouldn't do.
Hmm.
And just like putting yourself behind the wheel of a 4,000 pound, 3,000 pound steel bullet is fucking stupid. And you're like, it's so foolish and ignorant and selfish of you to do that. With anything that impairs you, even being tired, like you should just know
Yeah.
the safety concerns with that. But I do appreciate that, and I hope that that does impact and make that decision a little easier for people. And that wasn't my intent with anything. It's just something that I had found enlightened me when I made that decision. It was a contributing factor to that. That made my decision a little bit easier. And it's my so Rachel sent me something the other day, and so in our house, Rachel like will drink wine, and at night she'll have a glass of wine, but we're not big drinkers. When we're with my family, nobody really drinks. When we're with Rachel's family, nobody drinks. So our girls have just, that's what they know. You know,
Hmm.
if they grew up in a household where it was more normal, or partying to excess was more normal, that's what they would know. But this is their reality. They don't know any different. But she sent me, I'm pulling it up right now. So she sent me this picture that, who was it? Selby in school. She had to. It was basically a vocab. Is this Tilly or Selby? Let me see. Oh, Tilly. So it was a vocab sheet, and they gave them a word, and then they had to tell what type of word it is, define the word. So the word was bar. She's 6. She's in first grade. First grade. So her mind went to a place where adults go to drink. Um,
Tilly said that.
Tilly said that, yeah. And then um, the sentence that she uses it, I hope my mom never takes me to a bar. And then synonyms, restaurant. Antonyms, my house. And we like, they understand that I don't drink, and
Yeah.
Rachel's dad doesn't drink, and a few of my brothers don't drink, and they understand that. But we tell them, like, you'll have to make those decisions for yourself, and
Right.
that they're like, if anything in moderation is okay. And we're not running around the house telling them, no, you'll never drink alcohol, it's bad, everyone who drinks alcohol is bad. But like in their mind, like they're raised saying, my family, my parents don't drink, so there must be a reason for this.
Interesting.
And I just think it's really funny that that is what she basically delineated from her upbringing, that like our house is the opposite of a bar, and I'm
It,
okay with that.
yeah.
um
It's super, and and I think to kind of support like those that might be listening, it's like, well, I have a beer, but I don't drink with my kids. I mean, drive with my kid. Like, there's nothing wrong with it. It's all,
no,
like if it's a complete choice. And and I what I kind of said earlier, it's not that I personally have like decided to not drink at all. It's just that I've realized that for what I want in life, right? Like, especially from a business perspective, and then from a family perspective, like I don't want to wake up on a Saturday morning hungover, and then my kids, like, then me getting annoyed with my kids because daddy needs to sleep an extra hour because he had too many beers last night. It's
Yeah.
like that to me, like that makes me sad. And from a business perspective, it's like, no, I want to beat everyone. So if I'm out partying and have like maybe, I don't know. I got to be able to operate at 100%. And I know I can't operate at 100% if I feel like shit and I'm not and I'm, I'm drinking all the time.
Even if you think it's like a 10 o'clock on a Friday, that was a huge eye opener for me when I stopped drinking when I was 23. And at 10 o'clock on a Friday, if somebody called me or I needed to run to Target or like a convenience store to go grab, that I could just do it. And I know
Mhm.
that there's Uber and all that stuff now, but just having that freedom
Mm.
to not have to worry about that was really uplifting for me as well. To think at any given time, if there's an emergency in my household, I know I'll be fully within my capacity to take care of my family and anyone else
Yeah, that's scary. I mean,
need be.
forget like I mean, I feel like we're going into such a deep place here, but like forget even driving with your kids, but say you're both home and you're both wasted and you go to bed, it's like, and then one of your kids gets hurt,
Yeah.
or like, my son, last winter, he woke up in the middle of the night, literally couldn't breathe, and we had to go in an ambulance. Granted, I wasn't driving, but imagine if I was shit faced in the back of an ambulance with my
Yeah.
3-year-old that can't breathe.
And what emotionally that would do to everyone after that experience.
Everyone. And
Yeah.
like it's just, and I don't know. It's
I d
interesting, and I think that this all ties back to like health and like, you know, being a top performer, and and I get it. Like, listen, not everyone cares to be, a top performer or want to win at life or be the best in their field. Some people are totally fine, you know, being number 2, number 3, whatever. It's like, but these are the reasons why I've changed certain things. These are the reasons why I've made it a priority for my health. I got a lot of flack when I posted it a couple weeks ago on my personal page, the Schiffer one, where I posted a video saying something to do with the gym, and I basically said my priorities in order are myself, my
Oh,
family,
yeah.
and my business. And a lot of women had an issue with that. And, maybe I didn't explain it well enough, but it wasn't that like I prioritize like my wants over my family. It's that no, I have to prioritize like my well-being.
Yeah, it's the same thing, put your life preserver on first,
Right.
because if you can't take care of yourself, you can't help anyone else.
Right. And it's like I if I'm going to be here for a long time, I'm going to prioritize me going to the gym or me going for a run or me eating like whatever it is. It's like I'm doing this because I want to live a long time. I want to live a healthy life. I want to be strong for my kids. I want to be active for my kids. And it's like, so that has to be priority because then my family gets to benefit from that. Then my business gets to benefit from it. And I
Uh,
think that oftentimes, we forget that, you know, that yourself has to be a priority, that you need to make your well-being a priority before anything else.
I also think that your decisions need to be weighed differently depending on who they impact. And I think that there's decisions with your physical health, your diet, whether you drink or not, that it's not only impacting you, it's impacting potentially people around you, strangers that you don't know. Um, so I think to say that, I can do what I want and it's my life, that's fine if that decision only impacts you. But when you go and then do something that impacts somebody that you may not know, everyone else on the road with you, people who are around you when you just act foolish, you have to take that into consideration. But with regard to exercise in our industry, it is true. And I don't love exercising. And to be honest, the reason I started looking to improve my cardiovascular health was more so that I've been riding dirt bikes more and I've been racing dirt bikes, and I'm safest when I'm not tired. And
Hmm.
if I can build up stamina and endurance and have strong heart and strong legs, then I'm safer doing what I want to do. So that was the catalyst for looking to exercise. And I don't exercise every day of the week, but I look to try and get out and run or ride ride my wife's bike maybe 3 or 4 times a week, and then get on my dirt bike 1 or 2 times a week. And it it allows me some mental freedom to detach from everything that we have going on in life, and also it makes you physically healthier, which
Hmm.
in turn affects your mental well-being. And I think that as much as we harp on the mental aspect of the construction industry and how important mental health is, it goes hand in hand with
100%.
your physical health.
Yeah.
And there's nobody out there telling people that they need to be physically healthy to do what we do.
Hmm.
Um, and I think what
And I think
also
if you were to survey the construction industry, you would see that.
I do, but I also think what hurts us is the fact that most people who do this are off their ass for 8, 10 hours a day working. So their excuse is, I work enough during the day or I get enough exercise that
Mm,
I don't need to go ahead and work out above and beyond that. And while that's probably true for some people, it's not the same thing.
mhm,
You're not getting the cardiovascular workout just by being on your feet and being physically active at work day in and day out. I mean, there's certain trades that you do, but at least for what I do in interior construction, it's not the same. So I think that people should consider um, diet and exercise strongly in life, and especially in the construction field, where
I'd love to
your body is so important to how you make a living.
I'd love to open this up to if you guys are listening to this and you have a strong opinion in either direction, drop us a DM on Instagram at Modern Craftsman Pod because I'm curious at what your thoughts are on this and if it's a topic that you'd like us to dig into more like
Bring
technically.
some or
I'd
bring somebody
I was
on.
just gonna say I'd love to bring someone on that like could really speak to because I think as I mentioned, like I'm on this whole kick about nutrition and like figuring out how to be better about eating. I was actually talking to Ken just a couple minutes before the podcast and talking about like I'm trying to get rid of like I want to eat no processed food. And
Yeah.
he's like, what processed food do you eat? I'm like, I don't even know. I like not a big list, but even like the ones I am, it's like I'm Meg brought snacks home the other day and she's like, these are so good. And I tossed a handful of them. I don't even remember what it was. And then I flip it over and I'm reading the package. I'm like, Meg, she goes, don't read the ingredients. It's so good.
Yeah.
And it's but point being is like I would love to if you guys are open to digging into this. We like to dig into different topics. Let us know in the DMs or in the story,
What
because
I
it'd be curious to hear if you guys feel similar or completely opposite of us.
what I'm super interested in, and it's not necessarily that I want to do for myself, but I'd like to look into the scientific end of it.
Mm.
That a lot of the ultra endurance athletes are all plant based nutrition.
See,
Uh,
yeah, I watched that Game Changers Netflix documentary, which was all about all the vegan athletes.
I haven't seen it.
It's a good documentary, and I mean, it actually made me vegan for 2 weeks. But I physically could not consume enough calories to feel like full. So
Yeah,
so I went from that to eating red meat 7 nights a week. Um, yeah, I don't know. Like, I think there's no one answer. That's basically what it's different for everyone. If you're all vegan, it's like it's fine, but you still need to get the adequate amount of protein.
abs-
Talking like I know what I'm
no,
talking about, but
absolutely. What I have found to be most interesting about that conversation, and I'm not a proponent of eating like I'm a proponent of eating a well balanced diet for our kids and
yeah,
everything else, but I'm not super strict on my nutrition. If my wife makes something for dinner, I'm going to eat that. If we go out to eat, I'll eat what I want. But all in all, I try and eat relatively healthy every day. But most of the ultra endurance athletes and top level athletes that do eat primarily plant based, what's more interesting to me is their recovery
Mm,
and how quickly their body recovers to be able to get up and do something else the next day.
mm,
Where if you were to go and physically exert yourself to the max of your capacity, physically, mentally, emotionally, you would need rest after that. And these people are able to get up and almost do it again the next day because their body and their mind just recovers so quickly. And I'm sure that there's a lot more to that than just diet, but they swear by it.
yeah.
And it makes you think about how shitty all the food that we buy and eat
Ugh,
actually is.
yeah.
Essentially, there's like it's calories with almost no nutrients.
Right. 100%. And that's, I mean, that's primarily what we're like, I say we, but like, I think our industry eats. And there's guys, there's exceptions, right? Like, I think, one thing I would love to be better at is meal prepping.
Yeah, how
I,
many people, like, do you know in your company bring lunch to work every day?
um,
Like, most of my
I would say
subs
definitely less than half.
yeah, like, most of my subs go out and get something. They take a lunch break and they go out
Sub.
and buy lunch.
Yep.
Yeah, every
Sub,
day.
pizza. Yeah, I mean, and I'm pretty bad, but like I say recently, only the last 2 weeks I've been better about like bringing. And Meg will be like, "Hey, I'm gonna cook dinner." I'm like, "Hey, will you do me a favor and just cook double of whatever you're cooking?
Mhm.
Because then I'll just bring that."
I don't
And
think I've ever, like, in the past 12 years that I've owned my business, like, ever had a spell that I've gone out and bought lunch or breakfast. Like, I
really,
bring yeah, maybe in 12 years, like, I've gone out for lunch with a family member or a friend,
dude,
like, a dozen,
I'm
16 times.
I'm
Like, I never do.
I'm the exact opposite. I've probably brought in lunch a dozen times to work in the
Oh,
last 12 years.
I bring my lunch, everything that I need every
No,
single day.
no. No, and it's like every day it's the same thing. It's like there's 3 restaurants that deliver healthy food,
Yeah.
and it's like and then I pick one of them and have it delivered because 'cause I'm like,
That's see, you need to do it the night before
I
with your
know.
clothes.
You're absolutely right. I mean, I came last week when I was off with the baby, I was like, I'm meal prepping. So I cooked, like, I don't even a dozen chicken breast like, I made all these meals, and I fired through them, of course, like, I was eating 2 a day.
Yeah.
I was like, "This isn't helpful." And then today and yesterday, I brought it to work, and I'm like, "This is amazing." Like, it's just regular ass food that's good, and and I just we just have to be better about making it.
What you have to do is what has worked for me is to find meals or food that I can eat during a day that's very convenient, healthy,
Mhm.
filling, and doesn't require like if I had to meal prep and cook chicken breast to bring to lunch, like I would just wouldn't eat lunch.
I know, but you know what? Like, I agree with you, but until, like, you throw 8 of them in a crock pot and let it cook by itself, and you don't do any work, then it's great.
I guess I just like
Or I threw
it's
them
just
all in
me.
actually, I threw them all in the Traeger. Fourth time I've used Traeger in the last 2 years.
I always have eaten something whether like so for probably 7 years I brought a to lunch I brought a peanut butter and honey sandwich with a banana and a yogurt every single day for
That
about
fills you up?
7. Um if you condition yourself that like I could eat more after that, but it was a system and it was a process and it was a routine.
Mm,
So I knew that like lunchtime is at this time.
yeah,
I stop for 10 minutes, I eat, and then I'm done. I'm
yeah,
not like if I'm at home and you serve me that, I'd go back into the refrigerator and
yep,
I'd go and get more food. But if I'm like, hey, I'm eating to sustain right now, I'm not eating as a lunch break. I'm not taking 30 minutes now. I'm eating to give my body nutrients.
mhm,
And I'd either eat while working or stop for 10 minutes, eat, get something to drink, and then go back to work. Then I didn't miss needing I didn't feel like I needed more food or that
yeah,
it wasn't enough. So it was worked into my routine And even now, like most days, I bring a shake for lunch that I made in the morning with
Mhm.
like all of the fruits and vegetables and proteins that I need. And if you gave me that at home, I would want more food, but
Yeah.
during the day, it's like stop for 5 minutes, drink a shake, you're on to something else, and realistically, like, yeah, I'm probably full from it, it's just that mentally, I'm not thinking about everything else that I could be eating that's in my house that the kids have
Right.
in the closet
Because
for
we eat because 'cause we're
snacks.
bored, you know, it's
Yeah.
yeah.
Like,
No,
I could go all day when I'm busy not eating and be like, "Oh, shit, I should really eat something."
right.
But if you put me at home and I am doing paperwork or shit that I don't wanna be doing, I'm just in and out of the closet in the
Yep.
fridge all day long. I'm like,
Taking
I'm not
one
even hungry.
taking one Oreo at a time just to make yourself feel better.
Yeah. So I think it does come down to routine and make it's the same thing
Totally.
as working out. If you make it as convenient as possible
Mhm.
for
That's a
yourself, you're gonna give yourself an opportunity to be successful there.
Yeah, that's a great point. And like you said, I think all of it comes back down to, being performing well. Like it's a labor intensive job. It's physically taxing, it's mentally taxing, despite what role you're in, like, but especially from the project management side, there's an enormous amount of stress on these
Mhm.
guys. And then you add a bad diet and that stress compounds.
Yeah, you
And it's
feel
like,
like shit, you're tired, you're lethargic, you can't
yeah.
think on your feet.
And it's like, and then you tell that guy, it's like, hey, I know you're super stressed out with work and you got all this stuff going on, but you really should eat healthier.
Yeah.
You're like, F off, man.
Go
Like,
fuck yourself.
yeah, like that's the last thing I'm thinking about. And next thing you know, it's like they're overweight, they're unhealthy, they're tired. Like then they have then they have anxiety and depression, and it's just it's unfortunate. And the more I like research it, and the more I spend time thinking about it, it's like I don't want to ever end up there.
Yeah.
So, and with everything, like I get into these like I get obsessed with things. So
Mhm.
then I was saying to Ken, it's like I'm at a point now where if I don't go to the gym like on a weekday, I'll spend my whole day thinking about how I don't feel good.
Yeah.
I'll be like, I don't feel good today, and it's because I didn't work out. It's like when the reality is, I feel great. I feel fine.
Uh-huh.
I
Yeah,
like
like one day doesn't do it.
it's like I've lost the definition in my arms, man. It's been a whole day.
Yeah, I'm withering away to nothing. So that's also what I know that we've talked about, having potential meetups, modern craftsman related meetups or trips
Yeah.
or getaways. And something that I think about all the time when I'm either riding the bike or running is how cool it would be to get a handful of guys or girls together for a weekend that's based around like healthy living,
Mm,
exercising, even if it's like let's run, like get up in the mountains and run something easy like a 5K, or
mm,
even if it's like get a partner to run it with, um just to have a weekend where it's like focus on being healthy, disconnecting from work, and structuring yourself to be a successful healthy human being. um and I think that something like that may be that spark that people need to get on the right path, and that there's a handful of people that would be willing to do something like that.
dude,
And
that's such a great idea.
it's funny because I think about that, and if you would ask me that like 2 3 years ago, I'd be like, I'm not some like weird hippie who's gonna go hop into an ice bath and then like
Have you done the ice bath?
no, but I see all this crap and I'm like, yo, I would do that with a bunch of guys like within our network.
Well, you're
Um,
only supposed to go in the bath by yourself. You're not supposed to
well,
jump
yeah, I'm
in.
not gonna get in there. It's gonna be a big bath. But I was like, that'd be sick to plan a weekend like that to get outside
Mm.
and do something cool. Aside from like let's get together and just talk shop, because I think there's a time and a place for that, but also like to have a network of people that are looking to better themselves mentally as well as physically would be super cool to do.
Yeah, and I know he's coming up as a guest in May, but who would be a great partner with on this would be Aaron Witt.
Oh
And
yeah.
like that dude loves running, runs like, he's done 100 miler. He did the Boston Marathon one of the years I did it. And and he has such a big voice in that, in the dirt world industry. And I'd be curious. We should have this conversation, not to repeat it, but this conversation with him because he is very boots on the ground, talking one on one with these guys. And he actually did a poll a couple months ago about smoking, and like basically polled like how many guys are in construction smoke. And he wrote, I think he wrote the article on like LinkedIn, but it was like staggering, like how many people still smoke.
Still smoke, yeah.
And he's like, and this is, oftentimes related to the stress and anxiety that construction, puts on these guys. And that's, I mean, I guess that's where, when we started this episode, that's really where my head's at. It's unfortunate that that's the, that's the persona that people oftentimes think about a construction worker. It's like these, and it's painted as, you know, unhealthy lifestyle. And listen, I'm not saying that everyone's like that. They're like, it's very clear, it's very evident that, a lot of people, especially I think the younger generation that is listening to this podcast is on social media. Like those are the people that are bettering themselves because they're out there like promoting and trying to make this craft great. But the reality is like it's everyone else. It's everyone
Mm-hmm.
else that just happens to be in the industry and isn't the guy that's like super promotional of his own work. He's just in the industry getting consumed by the bullshit and creating stress and anxiety and unhealthy habits. And that's what this conversation, like really who that conversation's for. But
Do you
putting
do you don't allow smoking on your job sites, right?
no, absolutely not.
Yeah, same. I not a lot of people fewer people smoke now than when we were growing up.
Oh yeah.
Um, but still, I had to go to Home Depot yesterday, and I'm walking down the aisles, and these two guys from a plumbing company walked by me, and I was like, they smell like cigarettes so bad.
Mm.
And I'm like, if they came onto my job, I probably would find a different sub.
So
Like,
do so
you
do
walk into somebody's house, even if you're not smoking,
mhm.
like you make the whole house smell like. And I'm not trying to knock or be condescending towards people
Nope,
that smoke.
I'm
I
with you.
understand it's an addiction, and like nicotine is a drug, and it's very hard to kick, and there's reasons for people smoking. I just like I can't let it on my job sites. It stinks. It's a bad look for me, and the fact that like I realistically would find a different sub if they came in smelling like cigarettes all the time.
So hear me out. So we made a few hires recently, and one of them smokes, and I didn't know that. Obviously, like that wasn't a question I asked,
Yeah,
nor can I. But I reached out to like my attorney, and I'm like for HR, and I'm like, hey, can I not hire this person because they smoke, or can I tell them they can't smoke? Like what's the I don't want to
yeah.
say something and get in trouble for it.
Can't you just vape, bro?
And because I got I didn't get in trouble, but I got spoken to when I asked someone how old they were in an interview.
Yeah,
And it was like it was dumb. It was like very like, jokingly spoken to, but
nonchalant.
it was also nothing to do with their employment. I was just like, "Oh, how old are you?" And they're like, "Yeah,
Yeah,
dude, you can't say that." But so I sat down. I'm like, "Hey, so there's one more thing." And what I actually did is I was like, I always hand out the handbook. I'm like, "Just make sure you read through this." And I was like, "Hey, there's one more thing." He goes, "I know, section blah blah blah, no smoking. I'm actually going to use this time to quit." Being that you don't allow it on your job sites, I'm going to use it to quit. Now, I don't know if I don't think he has quit at this point, but he understood the rules and he was like, "Yeah, I get it. Like, it's not something I'm proud of by any means,
yeah,
and like, it's just kind of where I'm at, and I've done it for a long time, so I hope I hope I can quit, and I get the fact that you can't do it on the job, but I asked about the smell and I was like, how do I tell him he can't smell like cigarettes without, judging him
yeah,
or like, how do I do that? And I forget how it was worded, but it's essentially like if they're client facing, like I can have parameters as to, the, um, how pleasant it is to be around them. Like
Hmm.
they gotta be well groomed, they gotta be shirt tucked in, like not smelling like cigarettes, like requiring. I can kind of put those requirements into place. I can't say, hey, you're not allowed to smoke, you know, in
Yeah,
life.
you exactly.
So it was interesting because I've never ran into that, and he's an older, I probably can't say that either, but uh, he's an older gentleman. That is what I was going to get at. And but what we had that policy. He understood the policy, and it's all good. And and it doesn't impact the work, and I hope that we're able to kind of help him find the opportunity to quit because maybe it's harder to step away and actually have that opportunity.
Yeah. I mean, I think that most people that smoke at that point don't want to be smoking anymore. It's
Right.
just it's so hard to quit, and I think that presenting someone with an opportunity to have a successful career job opportunity while supporting them through not smoking,
Yeah.
it's the same thing where if you stop smoking, you will feel significantly better, lower your blood pressure, be able to breathe, your heart will be stronger. So it's at the end of the day, just physical health that's going to contribute to better mental health, which when you look at the culture of a company, who wouldn't want that for it? I even think of I did an internship when I was in college with a utility contractor. It was a union contractor, and the culture, like smoking was okay. A lot of the work was outside, but then the culture was like after work, go out and drink beers.
Hmm.
And I think of that in my situation now and how much different the culture of my company or what I would like my business and company to look like if that's how we kind of celebrated a successful job or the end of a week. And that's just not what I want for my company. And I think that, if people come to work for me as a subcontractor, work on our job site, to understand that's just not the culture that we're looking to convey and how much better I feel our customer experience is for that.
100%.
It would be it'd be a completely different experience, um, that I'm not for multiple reasons.
Hmm.
Um, but I would like to try and get somebody on who knows more about this, who can kind of speak to the mental and physical benefits of just being a healthy human being. You look at like the older generation of people, and the people who live a long life are generally fit and in shape and healthy, and they've
Yeah.
been their whole life. Like,
Right.
you don't see 85-year-old heavy set people
Right.
because it's impossible to live a long lifestyle when your body's working that hard.
Yeah.
Um,
And then on top of that, you're physically working your body hard in something like construction.
exactly. But yeah, I'd be down to get somebody on for that, and also try and test the waters to see if somebody would want to do like a long weekend getaway, doing something outdoorsy, health related, exercise related, just as the way to kind of mix it up rather than just getting together and talking shop. I think it'd be easy enough to set up.
Yeah, it's super interesting because like we have so many of these like ideas about putting these events together, and like what the premise of them is. Obviously, we've done the summit where it's very business oriented, pricing oriented contract, and we've done meetups where it is very much talking shop. And but you know there one of the things I always find in any of these events that we've done is that it's the sense of camaraderie and community, where it's like that's where a lot of the value is. And in what you just said, it's like putting together like a 5K. It's like, dude, I bet a ton of people would sign up for that.
Yeah, for sure. Or
It,
like even just train to, not that it's that difficult, but like even if you've never ran or exercised or haven't in 10 years, like you can work yourself up to that very quickly, and it's not going to be overly competitive
No, and
where it would just be fun.
and then we can drink beers after.
Yeah, man. We my neighbor earlier this year, we didn't end up doing it cuz it didn't work out with us, and I'm actually glad cuz it ended up being nasty weather. But they sign up for these races where you'll race over the course of a weekend with a team of people,
Oh,
and
cool.
it's all like throughout the woods and in the mountains. Um and you set up a team of whatever it is, 8 people, and you run 2 at a time, and you cover however many miles over that weekend, but you create teams, and you go away and you camp out, um, and you set your alarm, and, like, everyone runs for however long, and then you get a break, and then you're just going one right after the other. Even something like that would be cool to find one that's centrally located and sign a team up for, that somebody else is already organizing all of that. She wanted us to do that last year. It just wasn't working out for us timeline wise. But then when the weekend actually came, it would like poured rain and was super nasty. And I'm like, I'm so glad that we didn't sign up for that this weekend right now. We were kind of on the fence for it. And I'm like, they're out in a tent running through the night, just getting poured on with weather right now.
Yeah. I'm gonna do a quick shameless plug. Speaking of running, I am running the Boston Marathon again this year.
Damn.
I know. And so I have a link in my Instagram profile at Nick Schiffer. I just want to take a quick minute. So I'm running for Colin's Joy Project, and Colin was a 2-year-old boy that lived in Southie, and unfortunately, a car swerved through an intersection. I don't know the exactly what happened, but a car basically hopped the curb, hit him and his sister, and ultimately killed Colin and hurt his sister really bad. And his sister is fine now, and we've become really great friends with that family, and being part of that community. I felt the need to run for that charity, so I ran the last 2 years in a row, and I'm going to run again this year, and I'm raising money for that charity. So there's a link in my profile. $1, $5, whatever you feel comfortable with. Every dollar counts for this, and I'd love to raise $10,000 before I run the marathon in April, which is essentially a month away at this point. So I get some more training to do. Number one, but some money to
The
raise.
marathon's a month from now.
Yeah, I've
Have
been
you
running.
started?
Oh,
Oh,
I've
have
been.
you?
Yeah. But point being is, if you can take a minute, go click that link. I'd appreciate it. Because I want to. The goal is 5,000. I'd love to double that and raise $10,000 for them. And the money goes to creating better and safer places for kids to enjoy within the city. And they've raised well over $1 million and put it into the local parks and playgrounds, which is just an amazing feat. So, yeah, if you could do that, I appreciate it.
Yeah, that's cool.
But yeah,
I
man,
always
I have been training. It's going running.
going.
Yeah, I just don't really like running.
No,
Um,
it's
and
it's
and I want it. I actually don't want to, and I think that the fact that I don't like running is better, because it's the whole mentality of doing things that are uncomfortable and that you don't really like doing, but doing it anyway. And you know,
so
this.
what's your training program look like?
Oh, it's not official, man. I've
So
been
what I mean, like, how are you going to lead up to running that distance with a month to go?
Well, I've been running pretty consistently. For the last few weeks, I run every single morning, and typically will run anywhere from 4 to 6 miles every morning. And then on the weekend, I would run along like 10 or 13 miles. My plan was to do 10, 13, 15, and then maybe get up to 20.
Yeah,
Um, and so I don't know if I'll actually do that. The reason I like going up to 20, or the reason I think it's important to go up to 20, is because that's where usually, at least for me, like my body starts like not having any fuel left, and like you have
yeah.
to understand how to react to that, because I can run 13 miles without a sip of water. Like I can go out, I can run. I don't have to stop. I don't have to fuel up. Um, but when you hit 20 miles, like you need water,
Yeah.
you need
You need
some.
to you need, like, caloric intake at that point.
Yeah, so it's different, but I don't
So
know.
how are you gauging, speed right now when you're running? Like,
I
pacing yourself?
I have it in my headphones. So I have an app that just tracks me GPS.
So how are you so when I go out and run, I
Mhm.
have to listen to, playlists with a
Oh,
certain beat per minute
yeah,
or
so we're
else I can't I don't
so
kn I'm fucking rogue. If I don't do
yeah,
it, like, if I don't have music,
I'm
I
struggling for
don't know where
pace
I
right
am.
now. I'm struggling pace right now, and so I went to see a coach, just to give me some sort of direction, and he threw me on a treadmill, and he filmed me, and he's like, "All right, I see what you're doing. Your strides are too long. Like you gotta shuffle a little bit more if you're gonna do long distance." And so he like reworked my footwork, and he was like, "All right, try to take shorter strides," and he's like, "Try to hit 170 beats per minute."
Yeah.
I'm like, how do I? So I listen to some music with 170 beats per minute because you can just type that in on Spotify and it
Yep.
shows up. But he also gave me this app called Run Tempo, and you can just go in there and set tempo at any tempo you want, and it basically goes beep boop beep boop beep boop, so you can go left right.
Yeah.
And you can play that, and you can then play music and everything else, like it just plays in the background. So I just have that in the back of my headphones. Um, I'm struggling to get at that pace for some
It's
reason.
fast, to
Yeah,
be honest.
and it's supposed to be really short strides. Um, so I don't know. I don't think my form is super great, and I'm you know I don't think I think that despite as much as I'm running, I don't think I'm training in an optimal way, and I think that if I
It's
were to
just like anything else, like
I should have a coach. I should have a
Yeah.
coach. I should have someone running with me and like helping me like adjust things because I know what I'm doing. The way, I'll go out and I'll exert a ton of energy on 3 miles. I'm like, dude, like, what was I doing? And or I'll be running and all of a sudden I realize my feet are like slapping the ground, and it's like, what? And I'll have to stop. Like, I'm like, why am I? My feet are literally slap. Like I can hear them like slap.
Yeah,
Um,
it'd be fine if you were doing a 5K, but
totally.
26 miles is a lot for even people who are in
Yeah.
extremely good running shape. So
Yeah.
you should be using all of that to your advantage.
So maybe I'll hire a coach for the last 4 weeks here.
Yeah. But, I mean, I believe that 170 is, like, the sweet spot for distance runners to try and maintain. My legs are long, and I'm not a strong runner, so I gauge my tempo, and how fast like, the cadence that I'm running on beats per minute and also monitoring my heartbeat,
Mhm.
like, where I know if I maintain this tempo and my heartbeat under this beats per minute, that I'll run a mile at this pace up
Yeah.
to how many miles. So if I wanna run longer, I try and bring that cadence down, so
Mhm.
I'm not pushing my heart quite as hard. And then if I'm looking to speed up my mile times, obviously just pushing a faster cadence.
Mhm.
But it's the same thing. Like you adjust your stride to that, and a lot of the people who run really fast long distances run at a high tempo with a very efficient short pace.
Yeah.
I just have like baby giraffe legs that
Yeah.
flail all over when I try and do that.
Yeah. I don't monitor my heart, and people keep telling me to do that. I did it once with my iWatch, and, I just felt like all of my time running was spent trying to calculate what I was doing.
Yeah.
So now I have it's in my headphones, and the only time I know what my pace is every mile.
Hmm.
And it'll tell me like last mile 8, usually I run between 8:30 and 9:10 maybe miles, and which isn't that fast, but I'm like, if I hear it and it's like last mile 8:08, I'm like, shit, I gotta slow down. Or it's
Yeah.
like last mile 10 miles 10 minutes, I'm like, what the fuck, like, why am I going so slow?
So that's why
So
it's good even to track your heartbeat, because if you understand that you've run at 165 typically when you're exerting yourself that much, you can also use that to gauge how fast you're running And obviously that changes the more fit you get, but it's like, all right, if you creep up on 170, you know that you're pushing it too hard. You won't be able to sustain that
Yeah.
um, uh, aerobically for
Right.
that length of time. It's very interesting how all of the science behind the endurance athletics works.
Right.
I was listening to a podcast where the guy was a D1 swimmer on essentially like the best D1 swimming team, and the training was just go as hard as you can for as long as you can, and then got into endurance athletics and would push himself like that and couldn't build up any sort of stamina, and goes to a trainer and they're like, well, yeah, you're basically just working out aerobically, which you're, no matter how great of an athlete, you're never going to be able to sustain because your heart's just working too hard.
Yeah.
Essentially, for you to be able to build up this stamina, you need to go back and maintain like a 150 heart rate. And he's like, well, that's going to be me walking. And they're like, well, if that takes you walking to maintain 150, you'll get in better shape. Then you'll be able to walk fast at 150, and then you'll be able to run at 150. And then essentially, the longer that you do that, you'll be able to run a marathon at 150. And now you're running anaerobically, and you can run a really long distance rather than depleting all of your oxygen by running like a 170 heartbeat, and then not being able to run more than 5-10 miles. It's crazy. You don't consider all of that shit when you start.
No.
Just like, it's just like, oh, I'm just going to put shoes on and run.
Yeah, and that's what I keep doing, and I'm like, everything else I do with more effort than this, but yeah. I mean,
It's interesting to learn, even if you're not going to become super proficient. It's just interesting to learn all of that stuff, just like anything else you do for the first time or something new. That's always interesting and fun to me. But
totally, and I think, like, I just read Cameron Haynes' book too, like, Endure, and it's like, dude, that dude runs 20 plus miles, multiple times a week just for the fun of it. And it was like, and stuff like that impacts me big time. Like in the book, he talks about like how, or maybe it was on his on a Instagram. I don't know when it was, but he basically was like, I woke up at 2 a.m. and I realized it was raining out, so I put my shoes on and I went for a run because it was like, it was cold and it was rainy and it was gross. And I'm like, that dude's badass.
yeah,
And then I remember it was right when I started training for the marathon. I woke up and I'm like, ah, shit, it's raining. And I was like, I'm not going to run. And then I was like, but Cameron would. And I was like, so I put my shoes on. I fucking went, I went out.
yeah,
I came back and I remember my shoes were so, I'm like, it wasn't that bad. And you know what? And frankly, like the fact that it was raining and it was uncomfortable just made it not, I don't want to say it made it better. It just made it like my mind was elsewhere. Like
hmm
I couldn't just focus on the fact that it was raining. I was also focused on the fact that I was running and I couldn't figure out my pace. Like it was a different experience. And at the end of the day, it's it comes down to the fact that, you do what you got to do. You got to be disciplined, and it relates directly to business. Whether you're an employer or an employee, it's like, you want to do a damn good job. Everyone wants to make more money. Everyone wants to be more successful and have more things. And whether that's free time or materialistic or a bigger house or more kit, like whatever it is, you know, it, that's what it comes down to, is the effort and the discipline that you're willing to endure.
yeah. I think it's conditioning yourself mentally. When you look at anyone who's successful, a builder with, the top tier builders who all share a lot of the same sub pool, or a high level athlete, you get to that level, and physically, or if you look at the components that make up what a successful builder is, everything's the same. It comes down to who's willing to be more disciplined and mentally tough it out, and that person's going to come out on top. Everyone has all the same cards when you get to that level. It's just whoever on that day is going to show up and do what they have to do mentally to be the strongest and the sharpest, and that person's going to come out ahead. So it doesn't matter how much effort you put into building the business or building your physical well-being. You have to make sure that you're feeding your mind,
Mm,
equally as much, if not more, because that's what's going to pull you through.
yeah. I don't know, man. I feel like there's just, going back to uh, us podcast ships in the night, like, you know, I feel like we have been doing so much. I real quick, I want to shout out the entire team because we have made so many big changes with the podcast. I know we said that a handful of times now, but I don't know if we've even promoted the fact that our new website's up, moderncraftsman.co. Um, but this is, directly related to what we're talking about here is by putting more effort into the brand and doing this for everyone that's listening, everyone that's watching on YouTube right now, everyone that's listening to the podcast. It's like, we have just we've kind of just shown up, right, Tyler? Like we've just been doing this, showing up and having conversations. But now it's a matter of, all right, let's do something real with this.
Hmm.
Let's open up an opportunity for everyone, not to just listen in on a conversation, but show up at that 5K that we host, show up in an event, share information on a deeper level, talk about things at, in a wide array of focus. It's funny as I say that I recently I saw this blog that released the top 10 construction podcasts
Yeah,
and we weren't on it. And I was like, what the fuck, man? Like, we should be on the list at least, right?
yeah.
And I was like, well, you know what? We aren't really construction focused. We're talking about everything. We're talking about
Hmm.
craftsmanship and how that relates to life and stress. And so maybe, maybe it isn't super construction focused, but I think that that's what makes this great, right?
Yeah.
And and and
I didn't
and
even know there were 10 more construction podcasts.
yeah, I read through the list and some of them I knew about and the others I didn't. And then the one that was at the top also happened to be the one writing the article. I was like, there we go.
That ma
There it is.
that makes sense.
Um,
No,
but
it just comes down to, like we always say, being intentional, and I think for years, we went through the motions and we fulfilled obligations, and, it was a passion project, but then, there's a lot of things that complicate that, and at this point prioritizing and realize what's important to us and to the team and the opportunities that are on our plate. I think that passion project has a new definition, and it's kind of taken a new shape for me and everyone else who's involved in kind of making this entire concerted team effort to bring everyone together and put as many heads and hands into this as possible. And it's been it's been more rewarding the past 6 months than it's been 5 years prior.
mm,
Um, just with the effort we're putting in and seeing the results and really engaging and being more intentional and focusing more on this, which it's been really hard to do that. It's been really hard to pull away. And I think that if we continue down that path and keep giving back to people and giving them a reason to tune in and to listen and to support our channel, that I think it'll pay dividends.
yeah, I agree.
So everything I've heard, I've reached out. Everything I've heard about it, people are super happy with it. The direction that things are going, obviously the branding, the website, the format, and I'd like to just keep moving in that direction.
Dude, your midweeks are crushing. Like,
Thanks.
you stepped up and said, "Hey, I'm gonna start adding midweeks," and Doug was like, "Listen, we're not gonna Nick. We know that you got shit going on. We're not gonna ask you to do it." And I texted Doug after like your third one. I'm like, I'm doing these. I'm Tyler. Like not that I want to compete with Tyler, but I like them so much that I love our conversations, and I think that by us doing these midweeks, and I'm be curious what everyone else thinks, but it gives us the opportunity to chat and like just talk, right? Without someone conversing back. And what I'm hoping is that what I realize oftentimes is that we have these conversations with guests and we do a lot of the talking, right?
Yep.
Where it's like, all right, what if at least for me, it's like if I can just dump what's on my mind in a midweek, then when a guest is on, that guest gets to chat the whole
Full
time.
stage. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's not overpowered by, oh, by the way, guess what's going on in my life this week. So, that's my intent, is to kind of fill people in what's going on in the background of what, I'm working on, and, and also summarize a lot what we're doing with these consulting calls. And, I know you're doing them, and as well as I. And if you guys don't know, both Tyler and I have a calendar that you guys can book time with us one-on-one, some dedicated 1 hour time.
And Doug is looking to help people out too.
Dude, yeah, you want to start a podcast, or you want to talk about the way we do our video editing? Doug also has a calendar link, that you can book time with him, and he can help sets that stuff up. But I have all these conversations, and I realize, like, man, there's a lot of good information here that I'm regurgitating. In what better way to format it in a direct midweek video or podcast, and kind of run through some of these repetitive questions.
Yeah, I mean, I was recording one today and asking people for their suggestions and requests and questions, whether how small or large or complex you think they are. Don't be shy. It's the whole thing, if you're the one raising your hand, there's probably 10 people that aren't with the same question.
Hmm.
So if I'm doing it once and I'm answering one person once, I might as well turn the camera on and answer it once and be able to impact many more people than just the person on the other end of the phone.
Hmm.
And then dig into more stuff than I spoke with that person in the first place. So yeah, definitely reach out. I think that it would be good for you as well. And it's been, not that this is the intent of it, but it's been very humbling and self-serving to sit and kind of talk about what's on your mind, engage what's going on in your life, and spend an hour digging into something that's close to you, whether it's business or personal related, and really gauge what's going on in your life. That it's the first time in a long time that I'm disconnecting and really focusing on something that's close to my heart. And it slows me down enough that I can actually appreciate some things, gauge what I want to change, and find the direction of
Yeah.
where I need to be. So yeah, keep coming with the topics, the questions. If they're for Nick specifically, I'm just having people email me because I don't keep up with DMs, and it's the easiest, cleanest transaction for me. So
Yeah. No, I gotta. Mine is the best. There's a link on my @NickSchiffer account. But you can also drop a DM. I mean, an email. I think what's the new email for our podcast?
I don't know.
Neither
You're
do
asking the
I.
wrong person. You got to ask somebody who's on board with this.
We'll come
Just,
back to you on that. We'll drop
just,
it in the link below.
just the talent.
Yeah. Um.
I have people send them to my personal email because I know that people send me DMs, and I just get so overwhelmed with the DMs that are coming in, and I don't want to. I don't want to sit on my phone and respond to DMs.
Yeah.
I can do it much quicker on a computer, and then if I'm creating content around that, I have my email up. I'm not trying to like copy and paste DMs
Hmm.
or go on Instagram online and pull them and put them over, so I can go right from my email right to a folder that I'm tracking all of these questions. It's just a much cleaner transaction for me, and better opportunity and better chance of me helping you out. Or again, even if I don't know the answer to this and it's something that you want to tap into my network, allow me or Nick to be the liaison of that, and get those answers that you need.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Uh.
reach out to us.
So next week, I don't know if you know. Do you know Ren Hayes? Ren's
No,
Hayes. So wait a second. Oh, never mind. I'm sorry. I was reading something at the same time. So Renz is a good buddy of mine. He's a structural engineer, and he's actually got a design development or the podcast called The Design Development that he started recently. But I love the dude. The dude, he's so like-minded to yourself and myself, Tyler, and he's so driven. But he's going after some of the big structural stuff in Boston, which is super cool. Him and his partner Jeremiah. Interestingly, I met Jeremiah when I was in the high-rise construction years ago, and he was working for one of the big firms here in Boston, and kind of followed him through LinkedIn, and then saw that he started his own company. immediately reached out. It was like, hey, I need a structural engineer. And he was like, well, we're really focused on the big high rise stuff, but we'll help you out. And then, over time, just kind of got friendly with Jeremiah and Renz, and we've been working together ever since. And as our projects get more complex, they're more fitting for him.
Mm-hmm.
But he's really on that business development side within the business. Looks really big picture. And I'm excited to chat with him because I think that he has an outlook for what he's trying to accomplish in a very different side of the industry that we don't typically talk about. We've had architects on, we've had interior designers on, and we've certainly had a lot of tradesmen on, but the structural engineer side, I think can be an interesting topic. Naturally, I'm going to bring up things like CLT because he's dabbled in that, and he's going to be He's actually helping us with a project that potentially might have CLT, if not maybe two projects. But point being is that I think that it's an interesting topic and something that we don't spend enough time digging into. So if you're listening to this podcast today and you want to add to that conversation, make sure you drop us a message about that, what you might want to ask a structural engineer. And what I can advise is that you should be joining us on YouTube Tuesdays at 3 p.m. Join us on the YouTube live, and you can actually drop some questions in there as we're having that conversation.
A lot of smaller companies don't feel as though they have a use or need a structural engineer in their network, but it's really one of those relationships that you will be able to use more often than you think not. And it's a very valuable relationship to have, a relationship with a structural engineer to either bounce ideas off of, stamp something, develop a plan for where you're really in a pinch and you need this, whether it's for approvals, submittals. It's somebody good, no matter how big or small you are, to have a relationship with. So I would definitely tune in for that one. But it's going to be cool to get that perspective as well as obviously the business perspective, because it looks like that's what a lot of his focus is on within that business.
Yeah, exactly.
And everyone loves a good engineer, you know?
I mean, a good engineer. Yeah, I had to think.
They're just jovial and exciting and
These guys
uh,
are. They're young and exciting. That's actually a big reason why I like working with them.
usually they're like these old guys who don't have much to say, and
No,
then
I had
they're like somewhat computer illiterate. They're like, "Let me find this number for so and so for
no.
you in my
I one of
Rolodex."
my first jobs ever. I remember the. Oh, I cut you off.
No, you're good.
One of my first jobs ever, I was working with a structural engineer, and he was an older guy, and he was like, "Hey, if I'm all set with the engineering, do you want to come to my office and pick up the drawings?" I'm like, "Yeah, sure." So I drove to his office. He's like, "Come on in." I'm like, "All right." He goes, "Let me walk you through this. So this rafter here needs to be supported with a sister, and the reason being," I'm like, "Okay." So he walked me through like his methodology. I'm like, "I appreciate this. Like, I kind of dig it, but at the same time, I
You could have
can't.
just emailed these to
Yeah,
me.
I need to go back to work." And ultimately, you're just asking me to sister all the rafters.
Yeah.
So I get it. Like, I'm not questioning it. I just, I got to get this done. But I think that your point, like a good structural engineer, is great, and I think it's valid because those are ultimately the guys that help you achieve what you want, right? And when stuff is crazy or architecturally, I think about like my father's house I built. We had this 8-foot cantilever deck that was 30 feet wide, and it's like, how do you cantilever an 8-foot by 30-foot deck? And they work through it, and they're like, yeah, we'll do it with steel. This is how we'll do it. This is how we'll balance it. And ultimately, like, was it overly complex? No, but it certainly wasn't traditional. And it took someone to look at that in a special way to understand how to accomplish it. And,
Yeah, and with stuff like that, especially when it's an issue that you run into on a job that's already opened up and underway, if you don't have somebody like that within your network
Right.
from a timeline perspective, you could be so screwed.
Hmm.
They're the people who can make things happen and keep work moving along with sign-offs and submittals that allow you to keep moving even prior to township saying, yeah, this is okay, this is good.
Yeah.
Because they basically hold the liability for that stuff. So they're again worth their weight in gold, and having that relationship is critical to having a successful construction business, no matter how big or small. It
Uh,
doesn't matter.
Yeah, and if you guys want to see some of their structural work, go check out our YouTube, because that swoopy roof that we're doing with Steve Teague, they were the masterminds behind how to make that work structurally. Plenty of comments on there that it's overbuilt, but if you were to ever walk the project and understand exactly what that roof system's doing and where those point loads come down, it's actually pretty impressive. Um, so kudos to them for helping us figure that out and getting that project built correctly.
Sweet. Andy, Bella, Lexi, Stu, what's up? I think that's how you say their name, right?
Yeah, I think so. He said, "What's up, boys?"
How are you?
Well, just doing a podcast, man. So
Um,
he's chiming in on YouTube Live again. If you guys want to join us live every week, typically we have a guest. Today's guest was sick, unfortunately, so next week we'll be back. Um, Andy, Bella, Lexi, Stu are the name of his 4 dogs
oh.
in my name. Uh, amazing. If you guys want to join us live next week with Renz, make sure you tune into YouTube, 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Find us on Instagram, Modern Craftsman Pod, Pod. And make sure you check out the new website, www.moderncraftsman.co. We have some awesome swag coming your way. I'll leave it there. We're gonna be launching a pre-sale pretty soon, so keep your eyes peeled on that. We're gonna get some events here scheduled for 2023 in Q3, Q4, as well as it sounds like maybe a 5K. We'll just figure out a good place to run that's got
Somewhere nice. I don't want to be
somewhere
running on.
nice, warm, maybe has good acai bowl and some good
Yeah.
coffee.
Yeah, an ice bath big enough for all of us.
Ice bath for 500 people.
All
Cool.
right, guys. Well, thanks everyone. As always, spread the word. Tell everyone about it. Leave us a review. We appreciate all the support over the past few years and moving forward. And again, reach out to myself or Nick with any sort of suggestions that you have or questions you have. For me, email's the best. For him, through Instagram, his what do you say, your personal page?
Yeah, at Nick Schiffer.
Yeah. So different strokes for different folks, but email's definitely the best for me.
Adios, guys.